Welcome back to VToucher's Guide to Retouching. My name is Vartan and this is part 2 of episode 1. If you missed part 1 of this tutorial, no problem at all. Click the link at the top right corner of your screen now. Today we'll be learning frequency separation. I will walk you through the process of separating the high and low frequency details in an image. And again, whether you're a beginner or experienced in Photoshop, this technique is a powerful tool when used correctly. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and like this video. Now, let's begin. Alright, so with the healing phase complete, it is time to separate our image into high and low frequencies. First, we need a copy merged layer of all our layers. With the healing group or your topmost layer selected, press Command A to select your entire image, followed by Command Shift plus C to copy your layers merged. So basically it's copying everything you're seeing on the screen, followed by Command V to paste. In order to check to see if it's done correctly, all you have to do is toggle the new layer on and off, and as long as there's no changes, it's done correctly. We're going to name this new layer FS background. FS for frequency separation. We're going to duplicate this layer and we're going to name it low. Convert the low layer to a smart object. Then go to filter, noise, median. Radius at 8 pixels. Press OK. Then we're going to do it one more time. And once you apply a filter and you go back up to filter, your most recent filter is going to be up top on the very top. So since we're applying median again, I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. And we're going to hit OK. All right, now I need to create a working layer just in case if I make any errors and I need to go back to the original. Remember, we want to do everything where it's non-destructive. We're going to have to duplicate the low layer, clip it to the original low layer. So holding down Option and bringing your mouse right between the two layers, you'll see this drop down arrow with a box next to it. Click right there and our layer is now clipped. We don't need this as a smart object because we cannot directly work on a smart object. I don't know what that just happened, but we can't directly work on a smart object. So what we want to do is right click, rasterize layer, and then we're going to name this as low worker. Now our low frequency is set. So it's blurry. Sharpness is gone. So what we need to do now is create our high and bring back that sharpness. So clicking on FS background, duplicate, Command J, name this high, and we're gonna go to image, apply image, layer. You want to select low, blending, subtract, opacity at 100, scale at 2, offset at 128. This is always going to be the same. So layer, low layer, blending, subtract, opacity 100%, scale at 2, offset at 128. Press OK. Change the blending mode to linear light, and then duplicate this one more time to create a high worker layer. And we're going to clip to the original. Now if you notice, this is way too crisp and we don't want this, and the reason is because of our blending mode. Now if we convert this back to normal for the top, for the worker layer, then it'll bring us back to what it should look like. Now in order to check to see if we did this correctly, there shouldn't be any differences between your frequency layers and the FS background that we created. To check, hold down the Option key and press the I icon next to the FS background to only have that layer visible. No changes. Toggle it back. Now we're on the frequency. No change, no change, no change. Perfect. Now we're going to group this and name it frequency separation. All right. And now we're ready to have some fun. So with the high layer selected, high working layer selected, and using either the clone stamp or any of the healing brushes, if you're using the clone stamp, make sure the sample mode is set to current layer. If you do current and below, it's going to do this weird negative look to it like that, and we don't want that. That you don't want. What we want is always current. Always current. And basically what this will do now is cleaning up blemishes. You can just sample and it just moves the pixels over. So instead of, and all it's doing right now is it's working on the actual high frequency layer. This is not changing anything in the low. So for example, if I were to do that, do exactly what I just did on straight on an actual image on layer. So let's just move this up here for now. If I were to do that if I were to do that here, my pixels won't match, right? It's because I'm going dark, light. That does not look good. It's literally the same thing that I did. However, you can't do it on the image. So that's where frequency separation comes in handy, and that's basically what it's there for, to clean up those blemishes. So what you want to do is you just want to go through it, and whatever we missed in the healing process, or whatever we have to fix that we couldn't fix with the healing process or clean up, now is the time to do it. For example, like we can fix the hair a little bit. So like even if there's still some weird flyaways, like for example right here, right, with the background selected, it doesn't matter. See how there's this is lighter and this is darker? It doesn't matter. It's still going to carry over the same texture without ruining your image. And we're going to clean up some of these flyaways. We want some, but we don't want all of it. It's really good for hair, specifically when it comes to these like really light flyaways, because it literally just erases it with little to no effort. So see how these are duplicates? I'm gonna quickly fix those with frequency separation. Boom. Done. Handled. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. So when it comes to textures, it still kind of works like the clone brush normally would work. So for example, if I sample this right here where these creases are and I move here, it's going to bring those creases in, right? So with that, keep that in mind when it comes down to cleaning these off flyaways that are on the shirt or on the skin or anywhere, or on top of anything that actually has certain pattern or certain texture. Just be aware of that and kind of work it with how you would normally use the clone tool. We're basically sampling something similar, right? So that way we keep the texture, but we're removing the hair. So if I were to do this with just regular clone, it would not look right at all. Because all of this is doing is it's copying the texture, but the colors, the shadows and the highlights, well, highlights can kind of, we'll get to it and I'll show you guys, but for the most part there was no way you can do this with just the clone tool or healing brush on just a regular layer. Okay. Mess some up here. Get some of these on the shoulder. These are really light, so don't have to get really into it, but the more we can clean the better. So we're gonna scan this side now for hair, and I don't know about hair, but that looks a little funky. I'm gonna fix that. Zoom out a little. Okay, so that's pretty good. I like that. Okay, now let's get rid of some of the flyaways on the skin. So frequency separation is pretty much made to soften skin and to have like a deeper dive into retouching skin. The only thing is you just need to be careful. It could get a little out of hand where it gets too retouched, like way too polished, and we don't want that. We're doing more of a natural retouch here. So we want to keep it as natural as possible. So I'm just going to take out some of those, and there's some here. That over here, and strands are good, those are gone. So I like to toggle the original and then where we're at, just to kind of get an idea and see if anything stands out that probably should be taken back. Okay, so now looking at her face, I can tell right off the bat that there is a little color, little highlight there and some under the eyes, so that's something that we need to take care of. And then her hands, her legs, her feet, and it looks like we need to clean up that hand as well. Okay, so now with the high turned off, select your low worker tool or low worker layer, and then create a new layer, Command Shift N, and we're just going to create more worker layers. So what we're going to do is, using the brush tool at a 10% opacity and 100% flow, we're going to sample the color around the area we're going to paint to basically blend in the colors. So we're blending. That's all we're pretty much doing. And then if you feel like the 10% is too much, you can lower it to either 5% or lower your flow to 50. But right now we're basically getting rid of that highlighted area, but on the cheek. I'm gonna bring it down to 50 flow because I feel like 10 was a little too much. And we're just gonna do light painting with colors around the area and basically blending them in. Now, a lot of people use the mixer brush, and I used to use the mixer brush, but I do not like the result that the mixer brush does. So for example, let's turn it off. The mixer brush is good, but at the same time I don't prefer it because basically it gives this weird kind of texture, especially once you place the high layer on top of it. It gives it this weird look, like this weird glowing feel to it, and I don't like that. So that's why I paint in the colors rather than using the mixer brush. So because I use the mixer brush on the original worker layer, I'm going to delete that, duplicate, rasterize this, and basically create a new low worker. And to kind of show you the reason why we do everything non-destructive, so we can always go back to it. Okay. Now, turn this on. And I'm just basically light painting over any breaks that I see on the skin. So for example, like if you see like smooth color, I'm not talking about gradation from dark to light. I'm talking about when you see smooth, and then there's like this harsh line that just sticks out. We wanna either lighten those or darken those, just a smidge, nothing too crazy, because we're gonna hit those with the dodging and burning in part 3. But right now, again, we're just setting up. So everything we're doing, every step we're doing, we're basically setting up for the next step to just make it just that much better. And I know you're probably thinking there's no change being made. There's changes being made. And that's the whole point, is subtle. You want subtle changes. That's why we do 10%, 50% flow, 5%, 50% flow, because you want subtle changes. You don't want drastic, like, you don't want that, because then it just gets too crazy, too chaotic. We want control. And in order to control it, we have to go with lower percentages. And then I'm just basically playing around with the color. As you can see with the frequency separation to low, it's just a cluster of blurred colors. And that's pretty much what I'm trying to mimic with my paint brushing strokes, with my painting. So I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm just trying to level out the playing field here. There's that kind of harsh line on the nose over here. I'm going to kind of smoothen that out. And then I will turn sometimes when I get to an area where I can't really tell what's going on, I will turn the high layer on, see where we're at, see where the wrinkles are, see what doesn't look right and what I need to either remove or emphasize more. And in this case, we can soften up the veins and tendons on her wrist. Don't want to remove it all, but just want to soften it up. That's all we're doing. We want to still keep that realism. Don't want her looking like a mannequin. Soften up with the elbow. Move on to the other hand. And let's move on to the foot. Got to be careful with the ankle. We do not want to give our models cankles. So keep that in mind. And basically any breaks that I'm seeing in the skin is what I'm removing, but we're keeping the natural form. So the ankle's here, so we're going to keep that. Obviously you don't want to get rid of the shadow caused by the ankle, but we do want to soften everything else. Essentially you want to keep it there but not visible, if that kind of makes sense, where in a sense where like if you really look at it you can see that, you know, the anatomy of the body's still there, but realistically it's not screaming at you. That's pretty much what we want. I'm going to bump it up to 10% because I feel like I'm getting to an area where a little bit more opacity wouldn't hurt. Help speed up the process a little bit. Now again, this isn't going to look perfect yet. Once we do the dodging and burning, that's when it's going to bring everything together. And some people I know just go straight to frequency separation and pretty much retouch the whole image using frequency separation. Some people just do straight dodging and burning. There's no right or wrong way to do it, as long as you get to the look that you're satisfied with, and ultimately what the photographer or the model or whoever hired you to retouch the images, and they're satisfied with it. There's no right way to get there. There's no wrong way to get there. Some people, like I said, frequency separate the whole thing. Some people dodge and burn. I do a combination because I've come to, after trial and error with many different ways, this is the best setup and technique, and it's the one that I've been working with for the last easily 2 years. It took me about 4 years to really tune everything up. And normally an image like this will take about an hour to retouch. Obviously with the tutorial and explaining and all of that, it's taking me longer, but normally it'll take me about an hour to retouch everything. Also using actions, but we'll get into actions later. All right, so As you can see, this is looking pretty good. It's not there yet. The eyes are not perfectly clean, but it's looking really good. Let's see. Okay. Let's lighten this area a little. Let's go 5% on this. I'm not choosing to speed up the processes where I'm not really talking too much, in a sense of like giving actual like doing any explanations, only because I want you guys to see the actual real time workflow rather than, all right, I'm gonna tackle this and I'll be back with you guys now. I'd rather you guys see it. There we go. Okay. Okay. And the beauty, once we do from here on, everything is just going to be an adjustment layer on top. So if I need to come back to frequency separation, I can. The only thing I can't go back to now is the healing portion, but I don't need to go back there. So from frequency separation and on, basically, I can do whatever I want. So if I mess up, I can come back to the frequency separation. Not a big deal. We're doing everything non-destructive. So now to soften up the skin, one trick that I do, go to solid color, and we're gonna make a 50% gray. So 0% hue, 0% saturation, and brightness we're gonna hit with 50, and that's gonna give us a 50% gray. We're going to convert this into a smart object, and we're going to name this as skin and grain. And we're going to, and just a quick, so you understand, 50% gray is what the high frequency is, right? The only difference is it has the high frequency has all the sharpened textures. The 50% gray layer solid color just doesn't have that. Now what we need to do is we need to add a grain. So you go to filter, noise, add noise, and I'm gonna put it at 5 for now. Because it's a smart object, we can adjust our settings as we go. And I'm gonna put, and then in the Gaussian blur, so after adding noise, you want to add some Gaussian blur to it. I'm going to go at 1 pixel at the moment, and I'm going to clip this skin grain layer that we just created to the high worker, and this essentially clips it to the high layer in general. So now, as you can see, we have grain, right? But obviously, when it's overlapping the whole image, we're losing all the sharpness and all the texture. We don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to create a mask and invert that mask. From here, using the brush tool with the white color selected, I'm going to paint in an area. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to match the noise, the grain of my created grain to the grain of the actual image as best as I possibly can. So drop that down. Let's drop this down. Our grain is still too much. Drop down to 2. Turn it on and off. Toggle it. Still too much. Let's go 1.5. Might be a little too blurry. Yep. And let's go 0.25 for the blur. Yeah, I think that's good. That's a happy area. All right, now I'm gonna fill this in with black. Start fresh. 10% opacity using the brush. 100% flow. 10% opacity, 100% flow, and white fill in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just very lightly going to go over the skin. Very lightly. Just barely, basically making a lot of changes. What this is doing is it's softening up any rough blemishes that we might have missed. And because it's filling it in with the texture, with the grain, it's still keeping it's mimicking the skin, but at the same time you are not removing most of that texture, only 10%. So it just evens and blends everything together perfectly. Now, if you overdo it though, then it's not going to work. So we want to make sure we don't overdo. And also use a very soft brush. So that way when you hit the edges, it doesn't mess with it too much. Again, you probably think nothing's happening, but it is. Before and after. So it's just softening up the skin. That's all we're doing. All right. Before and after. Before. And the current after. The before and the current after. All right. Now I'm going to go in and any wrinkles on the clothing we're going to remove. Now, natural wrinkles are okay. Sorry, they're not okay. They're needed. I'm talking wrinkles where maybe the outfit wasn't ironed, or in the process of during the shoot, maybe an area got it got folded and therefore caused this massive, fold. Anything that is not a natural fold, we're gonna remove. Not with the painting process. So I'm going to turn my high layer off, and with the brush tool at 10% opacity and 50% flow, I am going to start painting over any one-off folds and just make the outfit a little bit more presentable. It's already pretty presentable, but we can make it always better. And the same thing we did with the skin, basically just sampling color around it and filling it in. And because I'm not filling it in directly with, a lot of flow and opacity, I'm able to blend the colors, and that's essentially what we want to do, is we're basically blending. Certain areas there's shadows, obviously, because of the fold, and we want to get rid of those shadows. In certain areas there's highlights, and we want to get rid of those highlights with darks. So you get rid of the shadows with lights and the highlights with darks. Is this crease? Oh, okay. That's not a crease. That is a stitch. So it's always good to toggle the high on and off just to see what we're painting over, making sure that if it's an area that we do not need to remove. So we're essentially ironing on Photoshop. So if you guys want me to iron your shirt real quick, by all means, send it to me. In the first video, we removed tattoos. And in this video, we are now ironing. Okay. That's a seam as well, so don't need to worry about that. We can make this though. These two go away. Give it a cleaner overall feel. So again, just sampling colors around it. And I'm not painting too much with the same color because I don't want to leave any footprint that I've been here. And with clothing, especially with this linen outfit, because it has the texture on top of the linen texture itself, it's easy to hide it. See? And then we're gonna emphasize it even more with some dodging and burning. All right. This fold right here, that's not a natural fold. I mean, that we want to remove. That does not look good. So let's zoom in a little more in that area and start painting. Now, if you don't, just to make your life easier, having a tablet sure helps. I cannot do all of this with a mouse. I mean, I can, but why do that to myself? So if you don't have a tablet, it doesn't have to be a Wacom or a Wacom or however you want to pronounce it. As long as I do recommend a Wacom, you can find. My first Wacom tablet I bought off of eBay. It was the Entos 3. The little bluish gray looking ones. The small one. It was like the whole thing was about that big, I would say. I got it off of eBay like 15 years ago for $75. And I had that thing, I kid you not, till about, I want to say I upgraded to this about like 3 years ago. So, yeah. It's not about, technically, remember, it's not about your equipment branding. It's about what you can possibly do. But it does help. Tremendously. All right. Now, with that painted, I do need to remove the crease. So I'm going to go to my high worker, select the texture, make sure I'm on current layer, and stamp on top of it. There we go. Here I'm going to select this area, or down here. Nope, let's do the top, soft brush, and paint on top of that crease. There we go. That's it. And just like that, crease is gone. So the main crease is gone. There is still some shadowing, which we'll hit with dodging and burning in the third part of this video and the final part. But for now, this is looking great. All right. And now I'm going to hit these areas on the background where we cloned and we had to clean up that. And I'm going to try to see if I can clean up this. I mean, I should be able to. So let's first tackle this area because I feel like this is going to possibly be the easiest. So 5% opacity, 50% flow on the brush. And I'm just going to paint over the dark area that technically should not be dark. There we go. Beautiful. And now we're going to do the same over here. This one's going to be a little bit more tricky because there's... Let's go 10% on this one. And first, let's lay down our foundation. The goal here is to blend. That's what we're doing. And most importantly, we're blending the really sharp edges on the side, with the obvious color discoloration between the two. So that's the trick. Don't have to worry about like necessarily painting in all of it. As long as we blend it in correctly, everything else will just kind of flow. But because it has that sharp line, that's why it's looking weird, and we don't want that. And I'm hitting what I know is gonna have basically like they're bricks. So that's one brick, that's one brick, this is one brick. So I'm basically connecting that together. I'm painting what I know first, so that way it's as realistic as possible. And then I will work on the rest as far as what I kind of, I don't want to say don't know, but what's not familiar, I guess. Okay, 10% is becoming a little too strong. So I'm going to drop to 5. Back up to 10. Let's turn this on and see where we're at. Alright, it's looking a lot better. That's before and that's after, before and after our painting. Okay. Oh, that's why we're losing information on the brick, because even in the actual photo, it's losing information on the brick. Okay, no worries. All right, so now we still need to paint, but to kind of give us an idea, a better idea of where we're at, we gotta now match the texture of the areas we clean with the high frequency. And I am going to select certain areas that are already existing for me to create the brick, I guess. Still looking messy, but once it's all said and done, it will all come together. Doesn't have to be perfect because obviously it's not perfect in the image, so but we don't want it looking photoshopped. That we don't want. That's a no-no. Okay. So that is looking better than what it was. It's not fully completely there yet, but it will be with the dodging and burning. All right. And oh, we have to blend in the light shade. Let's go with the lighter since there isn't a lot of room for dark. And let's just blend this in. There we go. Maybe a little too much. So what we're gonna do is mask some of it out. 30% opacity, 100% flow, and soft brush. And bring some of it back in, drop it down to 10. 30's taking too much out. And there we go. Now the light's blended. All right, so before and after. Before and after. Our current state, and I think for the frequency separation part we are good. However, I do not like this texture on the wall behind the head. That we're gonna fix real quick. So frequency separation is a tool directed to smoothing out skin. So it's a tool to retouch skin. However, if, like I said, you use it correctly, it could be more than just the skin. I think I used it more for background than I did for skin. Actually, I can say it's pretty even. All right, now let's get our high and get rid of that line. There we go. All right. We're going to have a lot of fun with dodging and burning on this one. Okay. And that, I believe, will conclude the frequency separation portion of this tutorial. I'm pretty satisfied as to where we are at the moment with it. So there's really no reason to move on. It is non-destructive, like I said, so we've set it up so it's non-destructive. So if we do need to come back to any portion to use the frequency separation, we can from here on out. So it's in our power, so we're good to go. So but I think we're good for now. I will see you guys for the final part of this video, which will include color correcting, dodging and burning, and any final touch-ups needed that we probably missed. And once we do a final scan over the image when we think we're done and see if we missed anything, possibly a little bit of liquefying here and there, but that would all be in part 3. And I would like to thank you for watching this video, and please drop a comment if you made it all the way here. That means you watched the whole thing. Drop a comment, let me know what you think so far. Is it helpful? Am I moving too fast? Am I moving too slow? If you do it a different way, let me know. Let me know, let me know if you learned something new, if you're going to be using any of this in your own current workflow, if you've been retouching already, or, just say hi.